So we're going to just have your name and what you do around here.
Well, my name's David Cook, and I own and operate the plastic lumber store on North Limestone Street.
And how long have you been a native of Springfield, Ohio?
I grew up here. Our family moved here in 1966. We have been a presence in the community for over 50 years. I moved away after college in 1983 and did the corporate thing, lived in Chicago for 20 years, and then I moved back about 15 years ago and opened the store, and I've been here since.
And so in the time that you grew up here and then you left and you came back, what has been, in your eyes, one of the biggest impacts of all these Haitians arriving within a short amount of time?
For me personally, it's the traffic and the accidents therein. You know, that you have, I just looked at the stats online the other day, and there's for the month of August, there's 179 wrecks just inside of city of Springfield, and that's an average of 6 a day, and that's crazy. I mean, we just don't have those kinds of wrecks. Before the Haitians, and I don't have the data at the tip of my fingers to give you, but if we had 1 or 2 a day at the most, it would be exceptional. I mean, people know how to drive because they've been through driving school. They've gone through the process, and I think that's, you know, not the Haitians' fault necessarily, but they haven't been through a process. You know, most people, when they achieve citizenship, have to go through those things, and just being an American and being a citizen, you have to go through a certain amount of processes to teach you how to assimilate into the society, and they're just not doing that, and they're having a difficult time with it.
So after I make this left, then
you'll be coming into the combat zone here.
I did get licensed as a Humvee driver in the Marines, so.
All right.
I was not motor T though. And so, just because obviously, I mean, as you were kind of mentioning before, the streets look the same, but there's also a big difference just with the passage of time, in the time that you've left and come back. What has that kind of been like, seeing that dramatic shift from what Springfield used to be to what it is now?
Well, I think Springfield in general has grown and developed in its own way. It used to be, 100 years ago, it used to be a very strong manufacturing base, and in the 60s and 70s, we started to lose that base, and we fell on some tough times. And I think to a large degree, people who have lived here and lived through that still kind of think of Springfield as struggling. I've heard the comments about, oh, well, we brought all these Haitians in to try to help turn Springfield around. I don't think it needed turned around. I mean, who doesn't like cheap labor? But it's, as far as, its viability as a city and things that you can do here. I've traveled the country. I've been to 49 states. I've been to various countries. This is as good as it gets anywhere in America. I mean, you could look at mountains in Colorado, or you look at the beach in Florida, but as far as average Midwest hometown, this is great. Here's new construction right here. There's nothing wrong with Springfield per se. And we've got a fair amount. We've always been a bedroom community because Columbus is, 45 minutes one direction, and Dayton's 20 minutes the other direction, and you've got that bit, but we've also got a lot of service businesses here. If you look around, there's, cell phone places and restaurants and gas stations and all those kinds of things. But the things that are really the heart of a city, like manufacturing, there's less of that now than there used to be. So impact-wise, we all would like to see more production going on here, more manufacturing. So that's probably one of those big impacts. But we're definitely moving in the right direction, and I think our quality of life here is as good as anywhere.
Trump recently said that he wants to come and visit Springfield. What are your thoughts about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to have Trump here to see it firsthand and get firsthand knowledge. And I'd love for Trump to do what Ramaswamy did, but I don't know that he's got the time to do it. He's kind of on the campaign trail and it's down to crunch time. I know, the Donald Trump that came up through the ranks as a tough New York construction boss. He's had to deal with a whole lot in his life, and but I know underneath it all, the stories of him helping people out are really gold. He's got a big heart, and I know that he can do anything that he's motivated to do. So I that's the promise of America to me, is having a leader that can process. You're going to turn right at the light. That can process what people need and give back. Look at his policies right now about not taxing overtime, and all the things that he's coming up with here in his run for presidency. So I'm very encouraged to have him in the city. And well, as a matter of fact, you probably already know this, but Newsweek ran a magazine on us in '77 that said Springfield was the most average town in America. And good article, good paper, or good magazine. It really went through, kind of all these things we're talking about. And so I think Trump would benefit from just really getting a good snapshot of Middletown America. all I keep thinking of is that New Yorker's view of the world, right? Look, after New York, there's not much of anything. Yeah. But yeah, this is that comfortable life everybody wants to get to, where you've got peace and harmony and a nice house and all the bike trails and this great reservoir where you can do boating and everything that you want to do is here. I think he would benefit. You got Central Park in New York, but other than that, you go up to Connecticut or something to get away.
So then, what are your thoughts with the mayor saying no, Trump shouldn't come because it's going to tax our resources that are already stretched thin?
I don't fault the mayor for that. He is bombarded. He is absolutely overloaded with the amount of attention. This is certainly, taken on in a short time. I'm sure that resources are stretched thin, but here's the thing. How much resources do you need? Trump's self-sufficient. He's gonna fly in, probably to Wright Pat, close by, say hi to the troops there, zip over here, do a few meet and greets, and then off he goes. So, that's just kind of how it works. But I don't think that it's going to tax us per se. It's going to take some of the police, to control traffic and things like that. But did you see that video? Since you were gone, there's a green Kia, and it's going 35 miles an hour. And it just runs right through the stop sign, hits a police car broadside, T-bones it. Smashes it. And it's all on a security camera. It's all on video.
Haitian driver?
Yeah. And then they turned around and listed the car on Facebook for $500 for parts. And then they started getting barrages of people attacking them for that, so they took it down. But when your own police force is just getting hammered by drivers, right? Yeah. It's just not necessarily a safe place to drive. So,
and this is a place where everyone drives.
Yeah.
Most people drive.
Yeah, most people have two cars. Really, if you think about it, or at least a secondary form of transportation. It might be a motorcycle or something else. But we're not hurting for vehicles.
So where are we headed to right now?
Well, we're headed due west out of Springfield, and we're going to the site of the bus crash.
And what's your connection to that incident?
Well, I do have some family members that were on the bus, and this has been my wife's community really for at least 5 generations. They've been here for 100 years and always kind of in this general area, and farmers and factory workers, and there's a fairly large clan. So it's home to them. This is just where it's quiet and peaceful, and you just don't expect those kinds of things. People here have learned to drive on a 2-lane road, and I know that might be a challenge for some, but it's it's daily life here.
Yeah, because for me, this is, I remember, I mean, it made national news, because that's how I first heard about Springfield and the number of Haitians that were there here back last year. What was the initial reaction of the community when that happened? How raw was it?
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, it's shock. We're talking about the very first day of school, and you're not too far. It's right up in this area. I think it's just up around the curve there, but you're talking about the very first day of school. You got, everything from kindergarten to 6th grade on a bus, because they drive through these neighborhoods and pick the kids up. And there's the new church. And so, yeah, they're on their route picking the kids up and headed off to school. And here we are the first day, and we've got this Haitian driver that has no business being on the road. He doesn't have a license, he doesn't have insurance, and he doesn't know how to drive. And he's been gone from his home for over 10 years, traveling around. He left his wife and kids in Haiti to fend for themselves, and he's been bouncing around to other countries. The last one he was in was Mexico, and here he is, and it causes this tragic event to occur.
So we're here where the accident happened. So why is it important that this aspect of the story is not forgotten?
This is Middletown, America, and we just don't see this kind of accident ever, and so now you've got this busload of children on the first day of school that get side hit from this car and roll over, and now you've got 60, 70 kids on the bus that are tossing around in there. There's no seat belts, and the child comes out the window and gets killed, and there's multiple injuries, and really it's the trauma of the whole thing. It's kind of akin to PTSD. Here they are excited for the first day of school, and it ends in this kind of a tragedy, and that has lasting effects. You've got, the person that I know the best is one of those people who, he said, "Mommy, I don't want to get back on the bus." And it took a lot of talking and explaining how weird of a situation this was, and the only way he'd get back on the bus is if she followed him to school. So she had to get in the car and follow the bus to school the next day, and and you have to do that for a period of time. I don't know how long she followed it, but I know it was a couple of weeks, and till the child has a little bit of confidence that he's going to get to school okay.
And would you say that for the kids that were on the bus, the kids that witnessed the bus, that was a very common sentiment, that they just didn't want to get back on the school bus?
I can't imagine how it wouldn't be. You've got kindergarten through 6th grade, again, all excited to go to school, and this thing flips over. How awful could that be? So yeah, I'm sure that all the kids have taken away some measure of trauma from this whole incident.
Has there been some of the other ways that kind of PTSD you were mentioning has manifested itself that you're aware of?
Nightmares, and general don't want to get back on the bus. I mean, I think that's the most direct forms that we've seen. But it's, when your own child is grabbing your leg and doesn't want to get on the bus, it's hard to peel them off and put them on there, because you have to agree with them a little bit. There is a risk there. Oh yeah, I would say this is the event, right? This is the shot heard around the world, right? This is the thing that really kicked it off, and again, like we were talking earlier, that the child is the line, right? It's hard to accept and absorb a child getting killed as collateral damage here, and
because there were tensions before this.
Oh sure, yeah, but you kind of
You try to work around it.
You try to work around it and continue on your daily life. You see these wrecks, you see, you know, because you run into this at Walmart or some retail store where you go in and they're not assimilated into the behavior and the mannerisms. You know, they're pushing you out at line, and they're stalking women in the parking lot, and they're doing all kinds of stuff that just isn't what, as Americans, we're used to social behavior, and there's a certain norm, whether you're, you know, on the East Coast, the West Coast, or the Midwest, that you got to know how to act and behave, and they're not accustomed to that. So yeah, there's definitely, I mean, those things are easy to spot because you're like, oh, he's kind of rude, abrupt, etc. But you don't have the same kind of animosity because you just figure they don't know any better, you know. But now when you kill a kid, okay, so why didn't you know any better? You know, why didn't you know how to handle your vehicle? Why didn't you have a valid license? And so you start blaming some of your own administration, right? How can we possibly give these people, they're not American citizens, they're temporary. So how can you possibly give them a license with absolutely no training simply because they're over 18? That's a fault in our laws.
And you ran into that, right? You ran into where someone was trying to...
I'm standing at the Box King, which is a local place to ship FedEx packages, and I'm behind a guy who's about 6'4", dressed in all white, and he's got a jump drive in his hand, and he goes up to the counter, and he's trying to get the clerk to print off the document that's on this jump drive. And the clerk looks at it and says, well, this is a 13-page document. Oh my God, this is the answers to the CDL test. I can't print this off for you. And so he starts to, you know, argue with him and give him a hard time. And I'm standing behind him, and I said, look, buddy, you got to go, you know. And so he turned around and took his jump drive and left, because 2 doors down is the driver's license bureau where you take the test. So why all this is incendiary for me is I spent 20 years in Chicago, and we had a similar problem where, you know, the drivers of the trucks, if you get a ticket, you're uninsurable. So then you got to bring in other drivers. They were bringing in Eastern Bloc drivers, and they were bringing in Hispanic drivers. And it was a Hispanic driver that, again, didn't have any training, had a CDL license, and started running over cars, and there was multiple reports of family of 5 getting run over by a truck driver that had no license, you know, and or an illegal license. And that's where I could see this headed, is you've got this guy with no training, illegal license, you know, cheated for the test, and off you go. And same thing could happen here.